Susanna Clarke, Piranesi.
Well, I predict that you will love this when you get to it. Most people, I think, would be familiar with Susanna Clarke's first book, Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, which is a book I absolutely love. So I was quite nervous about this one. I just thought, what if it's not as good? And also, it's been 15 years since she wrote that first book, and I know that she's been quite open about the fact that she suffered a strange, debilitating condition that's been sort of variously diagnosed with, I think they're calling it chronic fatigue syndrome. Basically, it's meant that she's been kind of a prisoner in her own body in some ways. It's almost like her own body's turned against her and she just was exhausted and she couldn't really go out. Quite often she has to just sit in darkened rooms. It feels like such a gift that she was able to write this book in a way. And I think also overcome her own self-doubt, which she's sort of plagued by. And so this book has come out into the world. And it's a very nice thing that it has. It's got this beautiful cover, and on the cover is a fawn. And I just wanted to read a little paragraph about that fawn, and it gives you a sense of this character, Piranesi. In this strange place he lives, it's a succession of stone halls that seemingly have no end, and they're peopled by these statues. And that's kind of all that's there, really, apart from the tides, which are down in the lower halls. So this is idea of the sort of seascape that's down there. And then in the upper halls, it's like the more elemental space where there's clouds and the birds. And he lives there, and he survives on shellfish and seaweed, which he gathers and eats.
I was going to ask, is he human? But no, he's a satyr?
No, so he is human, and he's making observations about the things that he sees. It's almost like he's cataloguing things. There are some statues, he says, that I love more than the rest. The woman carrying a beehive is one. Another, perhaps the statue that I love above all others, stands at a door between the 5th and 4th northwestern halls. It is the statue of a fawn, a creature half man, half goat, with a head of exuberant curls. He smiles slightly and presses his forefinger to his lips. I have always felt that he meant to tell me something, or perhaps to warn me of something. Quiet, he seems to say. Be careful. But what danger there could possibly be, I have never known. I dreamt of him once. He was standing in a snowy forest and speaking to a female child. So you're in this fantastical place. There's someone who seems to be not human in a way. He doesn't seem to have the frame of reference that we have. And yet there's a memory there or something about Narnia and the fawn talking to Lucy.
Of actual Narnia?
Yeah, little references, but
really?
you don't know, you don't understand. And you're like, well, where's that coming from? And at that point, I was just like, oh, that's so magical. I love that little detail. But as the novel goes on, you start to realise that all these little details that are woven in are actually telling a bigger story, and he is only a part of it. And the pleasure in this, I think, is twofold. I think one is just in this place that she conjures up that is so powerful and evocative. I really think once you've read it, you would never forget it. And you kind of walk there, you live there with him. And the other is, it's like a very clever puzzle of a book. And once you've completed it, once you've got to the end and you found out how all the pieces slot together, there's just a real pleasure in almost like wanting to see how it was done, which is why, having finished it, I almost immediately turned back and wanted to start it again. And in fact, even just picking it up to think about talking about it today, I found myself reading it very happily, like kind of dipping in and then, just carry on, I'll just read a bit more,
Will you loan me your copy? Or do you feel that will just
besmirch it?
No, I was going to say, well, perhaps. No, I was going to say, do you think that will just derail my Booker Prize winning reading?
Well, the thing is, it's not a long read. Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell was 800 pages. And actually, I did just want to flag up, there's a really wonderful article about Susanna Clarke on the New Yorker, trusty New Yorker. It's by Laura Miller. I just want to read the bit where she explained about Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. People haven't read that book. Maybe they're aware of it. There was a TV series.
Which I have never watched.
Oh, it was good,
somehow.
Actually. Yeah, I'm usually very wary of TV adaptations of books, especially books that I loved. But I thought they did a good job with Jonathan Strange. I think the casting was very good. She said, the novel, set in an alternative version of England during the Regency period, describes the partnership between two magicians and how it degenerates into rivalry. Executed in an exquisite pastiche of the precise, ironical prose of Jane Austen, it reads less like a novel than like a slice of an ongoing history. Although the book is more than 800 pages long, it feels as if it were a mere fragment of a fully imagined reality. And that was the phrase I thought was so clever. It's true. You read this whole 800-page novel and you still feel like you've just had a little tiny piece of it. And I think that's why everyone was so, please write a sequel. We have to know more. And the other thing about that novel is that there are all these footnotes. And even in the footnotes, which are often quite extended, they'll go on for a few paragraphs, it was like there were whole worlds conjured up in the footnotes that you wanted to know more about, and instead you just got this little fragment. And this Piranesi feels a bit like that. It almost feels like one of those footnotes that you've gone into and she's really expanded the story, and it's just such a delight. I really loved it, and I think it would be great for book club, partly because it's such a pleasurable read and it's beautifully written, but also I think it's really interesting the way that it's constructed.
I want to read it.
Yeah, it's good.